Hi there to all my crafty friends. Thanks for joining me today. I have a couple of different kinds of things that I'm going to show today. I've done a lot of things with my Cricut and heat transfer vinyl and some projects similar to that. This week I am going to share the first step in learning how to knit, which is casting on and the knit stitch. And I'm also going to share a little bit about making some earrings and a necklace that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and share that for you today. Not going to waste any time. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so today we're going to learn the very basic knit stitch for knitting, and we're also going to learn how to cast on. So I want to show you a couple things that we're going to need to get started. It's knitting. The one thing that's really nice about it is you can do a whole lot of knit projects with very few materials. Now, I have been knitting for a very long time, and I have built up quite a stash of yarn, different size needles, and all sorts of accessories. But you can get patterns online, and you can buy pattern books, or you can just kind of go from the stitches you know, and it can be, pretty inexpensive to get started. But like anything else, you can dive further into it and accumulate a lot of accessories to go along. But for today, we are going to get started with a pair of bamboo needles. These are a size 7. I usually work most projects with a size 7 or a size 8 if I'm working with a level 4 yarn, which is what I have here. This is not straight out of the package. I finished up another project, and so this is some leftover, so I'm just working with this. As you're getting started, start with a light color so it's easier to see on your needle. So again, we're going to start with yarn. Again, this is level 4 or size 4 yarn. It's not too thick, not too thin, perfect to start with. And I've got size 7 bamboo knitting needles. There are also aluminum needles and plastic needles. I just prefer bamboo. And then for casting off, which you will learn later, I grab a bigger needle. This is a size 10.5. Really, if you're working with a 7, you can just go up to an 8 or a 9, but I knit pretty tightly, so I like to have a bigger needle to cast off. And then last, this is also for casting off, you're going to need a larger needle, and it's definitely going to be larger than your regular sewing needle. You can get these in the knitting department at Joann's or Michael's or whatever store you're shopping at, even Walmart, and you can see that it's a really big needle, and it doesn't have a sharp point. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so let's do some knitting. So all I'm going to do today is show you how to cast on and the basic knit stitch. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with something very simple today, just to get you started in practicing. Knitting is something I wanted to do for a long time, and I've been doing it probably for about 10 or 15, probably 15 years now. I think I started in 2009, so yeah, almost 14 years. So I actually wanted to start learning how to knit, so when I sat in front of the TV, my hands were busy and I wasn't eating. It sounds terrible, but that's the reason. So we're going to go ahead and cast on, and the first thing you're going to do to cast on is you're going to give yourself some length. So give yourself quite a bit of length, and then you're going to make a slip knot. So all you have to do to make a slip knot is wrap this around your fingers, and then you're just going to pull through. And so you'll have this slip knot. Okay, that's going to be what we start with. So you're going to put that around the needle, and then you're just going to tighten it up a little bit. Now, the knitting style that I do, there's a couple different ways you can call it. There's continental in English, I think, and my style is, I think it's continental. I have to double check on that. There's also the term picking and throwing. I don't do the throwing, I do the picking. So that's how I'm going to teach you how to do this. So you've got your slip knot. Let me show you one more time how to do that. So I'm just going to pull this out, and you are going to take your yarn, and you're going to find a spot like where you want to go from, and you're going to wrap it, or I do 2 fingers, and you're going to take this part and pull it through here like this. So you're going to leave yourself a little bit of length there. And then you're just going to put this on your needle, and then you're going to tighten it up a little bit. You want to leave it kind of loose. I'm kind of a tight knitter. You kind of want to be a little looser with your tension than I am. So you want to start with a little bit of an opening there. You don't want to pull it all the way tight. So then the next thing we're going to do is you're going to take, I'm a right-handed knitter, so this is probably better for right-handed, except for, of course, it's kind of backwards on the camera. So this is how I do it. So I take the yarn and we're going to cast on our stitches now. So I'm just going to go ahead and cast on 20 just to keep it simple. So I hold on to this piece of yarn here that's already on, and I kind of make it into like a triangle with my fingers. You pull it down and then you go through the loop by your thumb and then over and through. Hopefully you can see that good. You make a triangle with the two pieces and you're going to make a loop there with this thumb. You're going to take your needle through that, wrap around, and then go back through. So now you can see I have 3 stitches on here. So I'm going to do that a couple of times. We'll show it one more time. Make your triangle. You've got a loop here with this thumb. Poke your needle through there, wrap it over and around that one, and then pull it through. So now I'm going to put 20 stitches on at a quick rate here. And like I said, don't pull them too tight. You don't want it to be too tight. And of course, I'm not counting as I go. I've got my other yarn here that I'm pulling from. All right, 3 more. Okay, so now I'm all cast on. I've got a lot of length left on my yarn, and I'm gonna not need that much. This will just be the end that I weave in, so I don't need that much, so I'm gonna cut some of that off. I'll still leave a length because I will need it to weave in when I'm done with the project, and then I'm gonna cut that off. So we'll put that aside. Okay, so now I have my needle here, and I've got my 20 stitches that I'm gonna kind of spread out a little bit. Okay, and then you're going to take your needle and you're going to hold, I hold what I'm taking the stitches from in my left hand. You're going to want to find the long piece that's attached. Everybody makes this mistake a couple times where you take the piece that you've cut, you just want to let that dangle. You want to take the piece that is attached to the ball of yarn. I take this and I wrap it around my pinky finger twice. And I hold my yarn like this, you can see, and my needle like this. So then what you're going to do is I take this needle that I hold like this and I put it in, hopefully you can see this good here, I put it in under that first stitch and I wrap it around and I pull it through and then I take it off the yarn. And there's my first stitch. Now I'm going to do a few. So let's do that again. We're going to take the yarn that is attached to the ball. That's the longer piece here. I'm going to wrap it twice around my pinky and I'm going to hold like this. I'm going to take the yarn in my, or the needle in my right hand, and I'm going to put it under that first stitch all the way, and I'm going to go past the yarn on my hand and wrap it around, and then I'm going to pull it through what is on the needle and then pull it off. And that's my first stitch. I'm going to just keep going with that for the knit stitch. So you go under, wrap around, pull it through, and pull it off the needle. So then again, you go under, wrap it around, pull it through, and pull it off the needle. It's hard to do this really slow. I'm used to kind of just whipping through it. Okay, so again, you're going to go through. Let's get really close here. Through the first stitch underneath, wrap it around, and pull it through. Let's do that again. Under the first stitch, wrap it around, and then pull it through, and then off the needle. Okay? I'm going to do a couple more slow, and then I'm going to do them quickly. So we're going to go under this first stitch, wrap it around, pull it through, and then off the needle. Okay, one more. We're going to go under, wrap around, pull it through, and then off the needle. Now you can see what this looks like quickly as I go a little faster. You can kind of see how your hands start working together. Now I will tell you, when I learned this, this was the first stitch I learned. I learned how to cast on in my first class and the knit stitch. And I went home and I worked on this for a whole week until my next class. And my hands and fingers felt so awkward. I had never done crochet or knitting before at all, and my hands felt so awkward. That's okay. You want to keep practicing this. If you really want to do it, you keep practicing until you get there, until it feels normal. Okay, so now I've knitted my whole first row, and I'm going to kind of show you, once we get into a few more rows, you'll kind of get to see the pattern. But you can see here, that's what the first row looks like when it's knitted. And this is what the back looks like. See those bumps? That's what the back of a knit stitch looks like. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a second row. One thing to remember, this was something I had a problem with when I first started. When you end your row and you go to the next row, pull the yarn that's attached to the ball under. I kept pulling it over, and every time I did that, I added a new stitch when I was a beginner. So you want to take this and pull it under and then wrap it around your pinky. And you've probably seen people knit before, and it may look different. Like I said, there's different ways of doing it. This is just the way I do it. Interestingly enough, the different techniques that there are end up looking the same. So, your grandmother or your aunt or your friend or whoever does it may do it differently than I do. But that's okay. There's a lot of different ways to learn. And this is just how my teacher taught me. Okay, so we're going to continue on. Okay, so I'm going to do the last couple ones to show you again in case you're lost. So again, you're going to take this first stitch here, or I should say the last stitch on the needle, and you're going to put your needle through it. You're going to wrap around, pull through, and then pull it off the needle. You're going to put your needle through, wrap around, pull through, and off the needle. Last time, you're going to put your needle through the stitch, wrap it around, pull it through, and off the needle. Kona. Okay, so now we have enough of the pattern so you can kind of actually see. When you just continue the knit stitch, this is how the pattern's going to look. Pretty simple. It's cute. It's not my favorite pattern, but this is a stitch that you have to know. So you'll want to kind of know what this looks like. When you've done a correct knit stitch, kind of hard to see in here. Let me see if I can find a good example here. You should see, like right here, they kind of look like little V's. And then you'll see all these things here. This is perfect. I didn't make any mistakes. That's the knit stitch, all the way straight through. Okay, now that we've knitted a bunch of rows, we are going to cast off. I would normally not cast off for such a small project, but I want you to know how to do that. So if you're practicing and you want to cast off, you can. I leave this, when I was first learning, I left this on my needles for days. I had yellow yarn, and I just kept going to it and working on it every day until I went back to my next class to learn more. Okay, so to cast off, I always take, so I said earlier, this is a size 7 needle. This is a size 10.5 needle. You see it's a lot bigger. So I use a bigger needle to cast off in my right hand because I'm a tighter knitter. If your tension seems to be pretty loose, you can use the same size. I always recommend at least going up one size. Okay, I'm going to show you how to cast off. I've already started, but I want you to see what we're doing here when we cast off. So you're going to take your bigger needle and you're going to knit a stitch. And I've actually got 2 stitches here on the needle. You're going to take this stitch here and you're going to pull the needle in your left hand under the stitch, and you're going to pull that over the stitch that's closest to the edge of the needle and pull it off and leave that first stitch on the needle. Okay, so we're going to do that again all the way to the end. So you've got the stitch left. You're going to go over here to the needle and you're going to knit a stitch. So you just have these 2 left. Okay, you've got those 2 there. You're going to put this needle in your working hand, the left, under the stitch that was there before you added the new one, and you're going to pull it over the one you just added on, leaving the one you just added on the needle. Okay, so now we've got 1 left. Okay, we're going to just keep doing this all the way across to cast off. You've got this needle in your hand, the bigger one, and your working hand. You're going to take the bigger needle and you're going to knit a stitch, and now you've got 2 stitches on the bigger needle. You're going to take the smaller needle and you're going to put it through. It's hard to show that from the back. You're going to put it through here. See how that's poking through there? You're going to pull it over the other one to the end of the needle, leaving that other one on there. So you're left with 1 stitch. So I'm going to do this in real time, so hopefully you can kind of keep up here and see what's happening. Bigger needle, knit a stitch, smaller needle through the first stitch over the second stitch and pull it off. Bigger needle through the stitch here to knit. We're going to take the smaller needle through the bottom of the first stitch and pull it over the second stitch and pull it off. Okay, so I'm going to do that a couple times so you can see what's happening here, and then I'll show you the final product, what it looks like. And again, the reason I use the bigger needle is so it doesn't cast off real tight. And then eventually you're going to be left with no stitches on either needle. Okay, last time, bigger needle. You're going to do a knit stitch. You're going to take the smaller needle through the first stitch on the bottom, and you're going to pull that over to leave the 1 stitch in. So now we are left with 1 stitch on the needle. And this is how I do it through the end. I'm going to cut off, leave yourself some length because you need to weave in the ends. So I'm going to cut that off. Whoops. Okay. And now you've got 1 loop left. Okay. So I'm going to take that out, leave it enough so you don't lose it. Okay. Take that needle out. I'm going to take this piece of yarn and just pull it through that last loop. Okay. And I'm going to pull it, but I don't want to pull it tight until I've got that loop down to the rest of my work. See how that loop is kind of down by the rest? Then you can pull it tight. Okay. So now you can see this is what it looks like when you bind off, your work. And now I've got this piece. Okay. And then you've got these ends left from when you started and when you finished. So now you're going to take a needle. So what I'm going to do with these ends is I'm going to take this end and I take the needle like this and I make a loop and I put the needle through it and I pull it real tight with the loop there and I pull it through, and then this is nice and flat, and then I just stick it through so it's like 2, and then I pull it through, and then it just leaves me with 1 strand. I will show that again next time on the other one. Okay, and so now you see the back of our piece of work here, and I'm going to take my needle to weave in the ends, and you can see all these pieces here. I'm just going to take this piece and I'm going to put it into my work, and you're going to wrap around each stitch. You can see what I'm doing here. Where those bumps were, you're just going to keep wrapping one through the needle. Well, now I'm having a difficult time. You can pull them through a couple at a time. You want this to be hidden in your work, but we don't tie any knots in knitting. You just weave them in. So again, here's the back of our work. You can see I've pulled this through a couple of stitches already, and you can't see it in the work. So we're going to go back into the back of my work here, and we're going to put it through a stitch, put it through another stitch, and just keep putting it through the next stitch. And pull it through. Okay, and again, it's lost there in your work. You might be able to see it a little bit, but nobody else is going to notice. And I usually do that, you know, once across and then maybe down a few more, and then I pull it out. And it's already kind of locked because you tied that, it's not really a knot, but you pulled that last piece through. So even if this were to come undone, which I've never had it come undone, that to my knowledge, if I gave it to somebody and that did, I've never heard about it. But it's not going to unravel your whole piece. Okay, so I've gone to the end, pulled my whole piece through here. Again, you can't see it really. It's still nice and bind it off at the top. You can't see that piece of yarn in there. I'm just going to take, you can see I only have a little bit of yarn left. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to wrap the yarn around it really tight. Kind of clip it with your finger and your nail here and pull it out. And then you're just going to stick the yarn right through it and then pull the other piece through so it's just a single strand. And then I'm going to go down to the next row and I'm going to just start weaving this into stitches. All right, so I'm going to pull it through. Okay, and you can see that you really can't see it. Where is it? Here you go. Now I'm going to cut this piece off. And then I usually just kind of do that. Here's the front. Here's the back. And that's all there is to it. Now again, you know, if you're making, usually there's a front and back to something. So you always want to make sure that you're weaving your ends into the back side of it. And if you've got a pattern that's different in the front and back, make sure you're looking at it before you start weaving those ends in. But that's it. We will go into some other different things later on at some point, but if you are interested in knitting, this is the basic first step, just with that knit stitch. We will get into purling, and then we can take it from there. If anybody has any questions, please feel free, of course, to drop them in the comments below, and I will try to answer your questions. If you know me personally and you want to get started and you have questions, you can just reach out to me through Facebook or give me a call or a text. All right, let's move on to the next project. So I had a friend recently ask me, I had made her and her daughter a pair of earrings, and she had asked me to show in one of my videos how I make them. So there's a lot of different materials you can use to make what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you everything that I'm going to use. We are going to make these cute little post earrings. They come just like this, and there's probably a centimeter dip in this circle here for you to put something in there. So I have 2 of those, and of course 2 earring backings. And I honestly don't remember what these are called off the top of my head, so I will put the link for everything that I'm using in the description today. I also have a really cute necklace where I can put 3 things in here, and it's got a hook so I can make it into, you know, put a chain on it. Okay, then I also have the chain for the necklace. And then I have these little domes, and I can't for the life of me remember what they're called, but they almost look like half marbles. Like if you put them together, they'd almost look like a marble. They're clear and kind of hard to see probably on video, but they're these nice like clear little domes that are going to fit perfectly over whatever you put in this earring. Okay? Okay, so there's several different kinds of adhesive you can use to make these. I just grabbed some super glue for this project. This is Gorilla Super Glue. And I also grabbed this stuff I love. This is Diamond Glaze. So we're going to actually use both. And then I have this hole punch so I can use the material that I want and cut it out so it fits into all of these little blanks that I have. I will, like I said, put everything in the description because I don't remember what everything is called, but I got most everything from Amazon. Now, you can use scrapbook paper, cardstock paper, fabric, vinyl, faux leather, anything you want to put into these earrings to give them the pattern and design that you want. I happen to be a Color Street stylist, so I like to make, now of course my nails are not done for this video, but I just did them a while ago, probably a week ago, and I took them off because I'm going to put some new ones on. But this was the color I used. This is Morganite Delight, and it's just a really pretty gold glitter. And when I finish my Color Street, if you don't know what Color Street is, I can put the link below. These are nail polish strips. And I have actually let these dry out because they're easier to work with when I'm making necklaces or earrings when they're a little dried out. I actually also, you usually take this tab off, which I'm going to do, but if the nail polish strips are not dried out, then I leave that clear tab on because it gives a little bit kind of more support to work with. I do also leave the backing on, whether the strips are dried out or not. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take, I have the largest thumbnail from the Color Street strips that I don't use because I use the second one. This one's too big for my thumbs. So I always save these to make earrings with. So if I punch right, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, I can get 1 or 2, definitely 1, sometimes 2. So all I want to do is I want to line up the white backing under the hole for the punch. Make sure you've got the whole thing in there like this. And then I'm going to punch, and it comes out very nicely. So here's my circle. And it looks like I should be able to get another one out of this. So I always do it upside down so I can see what I'm working with. And yep, I can definitely get another one. And that should be it. I can get 2 out of that. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this second one. So I'm going to turn it upside down so I can see the white backing. And I'm going to put this into the punch. Get as close as I can to the edges without, you know, making sure that I don't have any clear space showing through because I want to have the whole circle. So there's one more, and I'm going to do another. Make sure you've got all white space showing. And then just punch. It's a very easy punch to use. So now I have 4. I should have brought over things to do 5, but we'll work with what we've got here. Okay, so now you should see I have 4 circles. Let me fix my camera a little bit. I have 4 of these. Okay, so we'll start with one earring. I've got the earring, and I am going to take one of the circles, And I'm going to take off, now obviously this goes without saying, be very careful with crazy glue. This is actually called super glue. And I'm going to you don't need a ton because obviously it's very sticky. See if I can get through this without sticking my fingers together. I never can. Okay, so you can see that that's in there, and I just take the top of the lid and kind of push it down to get it secured in there. And literally this dries in just a couple of minutes. So we'll work on another one. Here's another earring. And I'm going to put some more crazy glue, super glue, inside. Take another one of my circles and put it right in there and push it down with the cap of the super glue. Okay, you want to make sure you get all of it down. Perfect. There you go, you can see that. Put that aside to dry. And now I've got my necklace. Now I only have 2 left, so I'm going to put a gold on the top and a gold on the bottom, and I'll find something else to put in the middle. This is a really simple project. So I'm going to put my super glue there in the circle. It's a lot easier to put it in the metal than it is to put it on the nail strip. And I'm just going to push this down to make sure it stays. And then we'll put one on the top. Like I said, make sure you push those down really good so they dry and adhere well. Okay, I'm going to go grab, I've got dried super glue falling out. So you can see I've got 2 in there. I've got the middle one still I have to put something in. So I'm going to go get another one and let these dry, and then we'll come back and we will put on the domes on the top. I got another nail strip, and this one is got some flowers on it with a clear pattern underneath. So I'm going to get the flower part. I'm going to get the flower part with my punch, and I'm going to line it up this time with the design because I don't want to get any of the clear part. So that looks good. Get all those flowers. And then I will put this in the middle of the necklace. So here's the super glue. And I will put that, I'm going to be a little bit pickier on how I put this one in because it's got a pattern on it. Okay. I'll try and turn it a little bit if it'll let me. Dries pretty fast. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, there we go. All right, I can go ahead. These are dry enough to work with. So like I said, you can see you've got that pretty gold in there, gold shimmer. And now we have got, I think they're called cabochons. I'm not 100%. Okay, so what I'm going to take now is the diamond glaze. Okay, so now diamond glaze, it's a water-based dimensional adhesive, and so it's going to dry clear, and it is also an adhesive, so it'll stick. So I'm going to put this on top of my beautiful design, and then I'm going to take one of these gold or clear domes and just put it on right on top of it. The one thing I should mention too is you always want to make sure you don't have any fingerprints on the inside or the outside, and I can shine it up when I'm done. But you're just going to put that on there like the globe and let it dry. I'll put the earring back on now. And I'm going to do the same with the other earring. I'm going to take my diamond glaze and just kind of circle it on there. And I'm going to take my, like I said, I think it's called a cabochon. I'm just going to take my shirt here and make sure I get all the fingerprints off, definitely on the inside part. I can wash, you know, wash it away on the top later, but you don't want a fingerprint on the inside there. Okay, so I got that in, nice and secure. Push it down for a second, and then you're just going to let that dry. Kind of hard to see in the video. I should have done maybe a little bit more color, but really pretty. I'll get a nice picture close up for that for the end of the video. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with the necklace. I'm going to take 3 of these out and shine them up. This is the official way I do it with my shirt. Nothing fancy here. Okay, so now we're going to take the necklace piece and we're going to do the exact same thing like we did with the earrings. Oops, except for I forgot to put the earring back on one. I better do that right away so I don't lose it, because I will lose it. Okay, so we're going to take the adhesive, the diamond glaze, and we'll just work our way top down. And I just go in a circular motion. Put this right on top, fit it in. You want to kind of make sure you hear it click and just press it down for a minute. Do the second one. Press that down. Ooh, that looks really pretty with those flowers. If you happen to get a little bit of glue on the outside because some seeps through, you could just wipe it off later. It's not a big deal, because I just did that. It's so nice how that dries all clear. I used a little bit too much adhesive on that last one, so I won't use quite as much. Oh, a little more came out than I planned. That's okay. Like I said, if it squeezes through, I'll just wash it off. Okay, and it did. So I'm going to let those dry, and then I'll give it a good washing. You'll see it looks a little cloudy right now, but those will all dry clear. And then I'll show you the full set when we're all done. All right, friends, that's all I have for you today. Kona's a little restless, so we'll get some kisses quick. Thanks, Kona. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed what I had to share. If you have any questions, please send me a message. And if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see in future videos, please let me know. What else did I want to say? Go ahead and check the description below for anything that I've used. I will definitely put the links in the description. And oh, and be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.